I would probably make successful products out there with less people in my team and being able to lead forward into making decisions that doesn't carry over and doesn't require 2 months went by. From the time we say, oh, we need this decision to the moment of you're speaking with customers, there are 2 months. And out of those 2 months, most of the time was spent on recruiting. The key to shipping fast is to spend less time in Figma. And there are things I've shipped that are completely from my brain to become the web application that's interactable and it's built with code. Completely skipped Figma.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Design Hat podcast. Today we have another amazing guest with us. And first of all, I really hope that you guys are liking all the content that we have been posting so far. And we have very amazing content coming out in the next episodes as well. So today we have a very amazing guest, Jeffrey, who who is based out of Toronto, and currently he is a co-founder of a very amazing product, Juno AI, and he has been working with other products as well, and he used to work at Canada Post as well. So let's get him on stage and listen his story. Hey Jeff, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm great. How about you?
Pretty good. So let's kind of start with a bit of an introduction for the audience out there, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, thanks for your brief introduction. So I'm going to do my longer one. I'm Jeff. I'm currently the CEO and co-founder of Juno AI, and we're working on this new UX and product research AI tool that helps professionals such as designers, researchers, product managers, and even marketing people to get to understand their customer easier without going through the hurdle of recruiting and internal red tape such as legals and sales blocking them from accessing the customer in time. So before that, I was working in Canada Post. So I led a few major projects at Canada Post for 2 years and a half. And before that, I worked with a series of startups in kind of a project and contract space. And before that, I did a interaction design master's in at Emily Carr University. And now is my transitional period of moving from doing photography and fine art into more UX design and product design related. So that's kind of been my journey. I've been doing product design for 5 years and kind of super excited to start this new journey being more on the focus on the business side as well beyond just product, and it's pretty rewarding. It's so pretty hard, and I'm pretty excited to share with you on this podcast. And so thank you, Abhay, for giving me this space.
No, definitely. We are really honored to have you. And I think with your journey, we'll get a different perspectives of different scenarios, different domains, and everything else. And I think a lot of people listening would want to take this leap, which you have taken. And I think your journey would be really inspiring to them, how you have taken it, how you figured it out, and everything in between. So let's kind of go back. I know you have done like you have studied at CalArts in photography. So I just want to know more about that and what eventually shaped you towards moving into product or interaction design space?
Yeah, that's actually I studied in California College of the Arts. So for short, it's a CCA, and it's a good university. We had lots of majors there, like including interaction design. But at the time, for the context, I my freshman year was at 2015, so 10 years ago. And at the time, I didn't know what interaction design is. Right, I didn't even view that major as quite important as I would have 5 years later. But at the time, I decided to I was actually in the industrial design major, but I really fell in love with photography. So that's where I chose to transition my major to. But even during my study of fine art and photography, I was very much always kind of interested and also did a lot of experiments with graphic design. I took courses, and also I did like designs for others, for myself, for events, things like that. So I have some basis of, I guess, working knowledge and skill set in softwares that became my initial kind of connection with design of digital things. And the reason for transition from photography to product design is for a very practical reason. I couldn't find a job in the US as a photographer. And a lot of time it's relied on you being like a freelancer or something. You have to have your own clients and that, all that. And I guess I wasn't good at that front. And so instead of pursuing like fine art or commercial photography, I decided to use my other side of strength, which all things creative, but I think design is heading toward a really good direction. At the time, at 2019, where I graduated, the industry really liked the UX. That's where the UX boom was becoming its peak, and then Figma was out. It's new. Not many people are using it. People are still using Sketch at the time. I decided to learn it, self-taught it, and then I found it super easy to create user experiences and mockups using Figma, and it's honestly brought me a lot of. I did lots of experiments on it, and I liked it, and so that's when I started doing a bunch of self-funded, like side projects using Figma, designing fictional apps, if you will. And I took some courses on the like Interaction Design Foundation website, and from there I got to know more about like design foundational best practices, not like more, I guess, soft skills instead of hard skills of design. And yeah, and as soon as I got into my master's in Canada, and I moved to Canada, I was able to find opportunities that were given to essentially students, right? It's not They were not expecting someone with X years of industry knowledge or experience. They were expecting student work because of my side projects and those fictional apps I designed. I was able to put them into an online portfolio, and that's how I got into my first opportunities. Paid job doing UX at the beginning. And looking back, I'm pretty grateful of making that choice because UX was being appreciated, so I was going on the right trend of becoming more employable than just having the skill set of a photographer. Um, so it gave me a lot of choices in terms of doing and choosing projects I wanted to do at the time. I guess it's not that easy, and it's a lot more difficult nowadays since the industry has been. I guess the tech industry is not good, and then there's a lot of people who are still looking for opportunity today. So I would say at the time it was really good kind of opportunity, and timing wise, it really made sense to make that transition.
No, I think definitely very interesting, because I think what you said at that time, because you want for your career, it made sense that you want to transition to a different role, and I think that totally makes sense. Did you just after your bachelor's did your master's, or did you kind of work in between somewhere as well?
Yeah, there was a one gap year where I was deciding where to go, which country to live after, what job I'm going to have in the future. And in those years, I was still working as a photographer, part time. Wasn't happy with my income and the job stability. And I was applying later of that gap year. I was applying to the schools, graduate schools, that and when I was before I was applying, I knew that I need to apply for design or HCI related majors, which could help me land a job and move to the countries that I want to move to. So.
No, I think definitely makes sense. I think we'll touch base on what a person who is in a similar situation like this right now
Hmm.
would take a leap forward towards. Seeing even in UX now, the standards have gotten really high, and it's that market is quite tough. So what the people
Yeah.
could look up to as well. We'll come up to that maybe a little after a while, but I'll just want to jump back to where we are now. And
Hmm.
I know that you have worked, like you've gone from working on like identity and shipping flows at national organizations to kind of launching your own AI startup. What sparked that leap, and how did you know that it was time for you?
I see. It's There are several factors. I'll talk about them one by one. So I would say the first factor is the a little bit of frustration of working at big corporations. And that is not to say like I had a bad experience or anything. I had an amazing experience working there. It's more just about my own personality and how I fit within an environment. I think I would probably make um, successful products out there with less people in my team and being able to lead forward into making decisions that doesn't carry over and doesn't require lots of decision made by others and approvals. So that's part of working in any large corp, I would say, is that you just need to constantly having those conversations and time spent on communicating all that and just to make advancement in some direction. And for me, over a long time, at the beginning it was fun, but over a long time, I think I was rather want to, I always want to have something of my own. So that's something, um, partially the decision. Another reason, sorry, is that I found it's pretty convincing to do something regarding my own profession. So what I mean by that is that Juno AI is concerned and is made for people like me and people who are in the surrounding industries and job titles and positions. It's trying to solve the problems I was facing and my team was facing when I was working at both startup and the corporations. We all faced not being able to talk to customers on time or not being able to talk to the right customers and getting the right answers. So that's where it's kind of sparked me to have that ideal product in mind where with AI came out, I was thinking like, isn't there a better way of just getting your idea across validated through AI quickly? And that was around later half of 2023 when I started having that idea. But at the time, I thought, oh yeah, it's just an idea. Like how I'm just a designer. How can I make that thing available, right? Without finding someone super technical and just going to the old traditional routes of getting VCs and just like it just sounds too crazy to me at the time, you know, something I couldn't imagine. And then so I just had that idea, just saved that in the back of my mind without doing any sort of action on it in the end. Um, until like 2024, I would say the advancement of AI, and I was able to try out those AI IDEs, and now they call it wipe coding tools. And I could wipe code out a prototype of something that I wanted. Right? That's amazing how a year of development of AI could achieve for me and for us. So with that prototype and with a bunch of other experiences that I can talk about later, um, I was able to find a good co-founder who's technical, and that's when we decided to go to do this full time. I would say the fourth reason would be before I quit and doing Juno AI full time, I launched a an iOS app in 2023, and I made it I launched in 2023 as a fully free app. There's no ad and it's free to download. There's no subscription. So I wasn't expecting anyone to download it. I was just treating that as a learning experience because I wanted to learn how to code. So I did that, but the app got featured on a like a made like something called App Raven, which is like an app publishing platform. So they basically share free apps to their users. And it got a good initial download of 3,000 just first week after I launched. So I was quite surprised of that. And then in 2024, there were a few months I didn't work on it, but in 2024, I launched a brand new version of that same app. I made the subscription and in-app purchases, things like that, and it started to get me some kind of money. The money obviously wasn't enough to pay any kind of thing, but it just opened up my mind about you can have this like passive income just using your abilities, right? I have the design skills. I have the aesthetic of making wallpapers into an app. I have the little bit skill set of coding, and then I was getting this passive income, although they're just a few bucks at the time. Um, it was just super rewarding, and that I think this reason is probably one of the most important reason is that without this small investment and small trial of making an app, I wouldn't be dreaming about like it kind of shifted my mindset from being hired to do something for others and getting an income to I want to invest more time into creating something that people want and so that I can get passive income on that. And things since then, I started looking at how other successful so-called indie makers or indie builders are doing. And the trick is obviously like you have to create um, apps in quick successions. You need to create like 30 plus apps and just hope for a few of them get viral and you go through good marketing, things like that. But I saw a path, right? There are people making good money and they become freer. They're able to move to the countries they want to live in without being confined to a job. So that's something sparked me kind of thinking of doing, even though right now I'm almost purely focused on Juno AI. I still think like even today, if without Juno AI, I was still going to quit, um, because there's a path out there, especially in 2025 with AI. So yeah, I know it's a long answer. So let me know if you want me to sum it up briefly again or not. But I think all these reasons combined made me do the switch at early this year. Yeah.
No, I think definitely makes sense. Even though it's long, it's your journey, I think, and that is what made you kind of decide what you want to do next. So I totally agree. I think a lot of people listening, even at a point, I was even exploring the indie maker side of stuff. And I agree what you just said. You have to build like 30, 40 of them and hope that one of them goes viral. I was
Yeah.
actually listening to a lot of YouTube videos on how people actually do the marketing of these, and a lot of people rely on, like, they make like an Instagram or like a TikTok page and they post like reels and one or few of them get viral. I'm like, how they have cracked that code, like
Yeah,
how this
exactly.
happen. So but it is very interesting space where
Mhm.
people have multiple products, and and like, let's say one of the products is making them $5,000 a month, another one is making them $10,000 a month, and they have multiple products like that, and that's like multiple stream and they own full of
Yeah,
it. uh,
exactly.
that is a
And
very interesting space.
and that's that's definitely a lot more income than I would say majority of the product designer out there could make at their job, right? Like if you get a few products out there that's bringing in more than 10,000 a month, that's incredible. The and also if you get tired of it, you can always sell it. You can sell the app and get a huge sum of money and work on your project. Um, which to me is just like a super flexible way of progressing and instead of like going to one way of getting a job, become a senior designer, become a manager, like that kind of path. So I think, yeah, they're definitely different. These are definitely different options for people who have different, goals in life and real life experiences and responsibility they have. So I wouldn't say like being an indie maker or trying to start a startup is works for everybody. But for me, I think it's at least the most reasonable option for now for this year. Yeah.
No, I think I totally agree with what you said. I was going to come to this point that it is it is not for everyone. First, a person has to decide that if this is something, this is the risk that they would want to take, and then see. Again, it may be possible that you put a year or two into it and nothing works out.
Hmm.
That is the outcome that can come as well. So I think But
Absolutely.
they, yeah, there is a negative side, there's a positive side, both of it, and I think people would want to consider kind of before even kind of jumping into it. And that is really interesting space, and I think very interesting to see how you kind of thought towards kind of making that decision. That was really interesting.
Hmm.
Next question what I have is like, you're like, now what you said, like, because of AI you were able to do like vibe coding and other stuff as well. And so what I would say, like, you are not now just a designer, like you can somehow code as well, you launch as well, and you have hustled throughout to kind of make these amazing products. So how has been a hybrid of all of this kind of helped or kind of challenged you in kind of building products from scratch?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think mixing this, it kind of proved that I'm meant to be more of a generalist than a specialist, and I think I realized that actually even before I got into design. So, like when I was doing photography, I was doing all sorts of other things. So I'm always interested into branching out and doing things, and I somehow kind of view that almost always as a disadvantage until recently, because I think to become competitive in a job market, especially in the last few years, is that you have to be very, very narrow in a certain field and being able to showcase your best work in that particular genre of thing that you do, right? And now I'm treating this like hybrid abilities and skill sets to cover all this is it just feels kind of rewarding to me being able to get good at all of these. Not great, not the best, definitely, but good enough to, making them commercialized and getting some kind of income from each of these sites or combined skills. And I would say, looking back at my path, I started out very laser focused on the UX, right? When I just make transition, because that was 80% of job title. Like people were just hiring UX UI designers. So what did I do? Right, bunch of time focused on pushing pixels, making sure the UI looks good. Another side is making sure the user experience is good. Um, Later on in the career, I realized like when a job title became like product designer, you realize that there's a bunch of business decisions and goals you have to met that have to be met, which a lot of times in real life situations they're more important than your user experience. There are times you just have to consciously compromise UX so that business goals can be achieved. And this is not just confined to dark patterns. This is pretty much like the most boring thing you can think of. Um, Often involves sacrificing some bit of UX, but then so the team is easier, right? Team can spend less money on it. It's a lot of time it's just like that, and then so that's kind of a progression from, I think, just realizing that like UX is not always front and center of those teams and products, become more product minded, and now dabbing into like building business and startup, realizing like there's other side of like business side and marketing side that I'm just still kind of just stumble upon and just starting to learn, which are equally as important, as important, if not more, um, than product design these days. So I think it just like it's not just about branching out to random directions. I think it's almost like a progression to me to like understand the fuller picture of things, because things always run this way. Things always started with a business and started with like customers and started with language and like the brand you kind of sell, and then it starts to narrow down into UX. Like, so I think I'm just starting to really understand the practical matter of how things work in general. So that has been eye opening for me, and I think like even if you're a specialist, someone is a specialist, they still need to try to understand the side of things, and even this it's not their job or role to learn this. I think it's still fundamentally kind of beneficial to do all these.
I think that is really interesting. I picked up a lot of points what you said, and I think one point that I definitely want to highlight out of this is in the market right now, you have to be very narrow if you really want to grow and if you really want to get hired. That's the one, and you want to show the best of the best work in that particular narrow field or thing, whatever you chose to be hired. Uh,
Yeah,
this is really interesting because then and the other way, you don't have to be narrow, you can be broad. For example, you branched out into different fields and you learned that, and you eventually either go on the indie side of things and make and break things, or either kind of fully get into what you want to do, right? Which is very interesting. And I think a lot of people in this space would be right now in the job market would be in the similar domain, like a similar space of how they could kind of take forward to, which is very interesting on how you kind of put it out there.
yeah,
Uh, Another question that I want to come to now with what you're doing now. So let's talk about Juno. So what's the mission behind Juno AI? What exact problem are you solving? And what was your first kind of moment where you kind of when you were building this, when you thought like, yes, I'm doing something amazing.
great. So with Juno AI, I know I briefly talked about it, like about the frustration of not being able to talk to customers, which is real. Like we, um, just to share my previous work experience and how the context of it is like we when I was the um, sole designer on the team of a very small team, we had trouble with getting access to customers doing qualitative research, like interview basically. It takes a long time, and if you're working on kind of the B2B side of things, it's even harder to find those customers. I mean, there are tools and good company and services offered out there, but they're expensive. You have to spend a lot of money on it, and smaller companies wouldn't be able to afford. And when I moved to larger companies, I realized these kind of functions are distributed into different job positions and expertise. So I was no longer doing research. I was focused on design. We have dedicated researcher were really amazing at their job. But the reality is, we had a design decision or product decision to make at the time, and many times actually. And to be able to make it, we need um, some kind of research with real customers. But be in the B2B space, it was hard. And before we even started to talk with customers, 2 months went by. From the time we said, oh, we need this decision to the moment we were speaking with customers, there are 2 months. And out of those 2 months, most of the time was spent on recruiting. And it was super hard to do recruiting. And when we get to talk to them, they were like maybe 5 out of 10 that were really good and aligned with what we have as our kind of ideal customer or intended customer group, who brought useful actionable insights to us. The other five would be like they're just not a match, right? We're looking for, I don't know, I wouldn't give like the exact example, but basically they were the wrong type of people to begin with. So their opinion and suggestions wouldn't matter to us at all. So that's the kind of frustration I left with. Um, and I started talking with other people as well from product and marketing. They are all struggling with it for different reasons. Mine was recruiting. There are other teams, it was about legal. The legal process takes about 6 weeks to go through, so that the upper decision makers just said, let's just skip this research. Let's wait till the next the start of next year. Let's do a huge big research together for this thing. But right now, just get over with it. Right? These things happens, and then when you wait so long and then you get subpar results because of the wrong matching of customers, participants, the return on investment of this research can be viewed as negative by the people who care about money, and that just adds on to like adding shadows to the role of research in these teams, like voice of customers and UX research. Like it's not bringing a good rap to us, and so I think it's hurting like both the decision making time, it's hurting the business, and it's hurting us professionals who rely on research to be successful. So with that in mind, I think um, I my goal is to make sure when you want to talk to customers, you could easily do so. And um, what I came across using AI is that I realized that if you give it enough information and give it real data that you have collected in the past, or people have collected for you, or things are out there in the public, you could talk to the AI and it could give you really good predictable results to your question or to your concept and give you feedback as if it's your real customer. Now, how much of that is really reliable? We're still tweaking that, but for me, that is a good a direction to pursue, because I think in the future there will be a lot of products out there designed to be used by AI agents, designed to be, and so that our tools are using AI agent basically review your product, right? So like being able to know how your customers, right? They could be real person or could be agent in the future, really interact with your experiences. So I think it's a good direction I'm betting on to make it. So just in short, like with Juno AI, we're able to the users of Juno AI is able to create customer AI customers that mirror their real life customers using a simple prompt or using your existing research documents or existing personas. You upload them in, you create this persona, and you can start chatting with them as if you were doing an interview. And we also offer AI customer user testings. So when you have these AI customer established, you can send them your website or a web application. They would go to that, and we're using like the browser user API. So it's actually browsing your web page or application in real time as if it's a real user, and it's going to give you a list of action items and scoring to different categories, such criteria such as visual design, content, um, usefulness, things like that. And so that with that, you can start to act upon your application. And the user testing takes about 3 to 5 minutes to finish, and which is incredible because usually it takes weeks. Uh, After the recruiting process, obviously, on usertesting.com, and the being able to interview your user within a few minutes of after just spent on creating your persona, and then you can interview it at any time you want, and it'll give you instant response. So you don't ever need to wait for the internal hurdles and the red tapes, things like that. So I think the most important part for Juno AI is just to making sure we find a way to make these AI customers more and more reliable, and more they um, they reflect what your real user are thinking and doing, and that is the end goal we're pursuing, so that it open up all kinds of possibilities how you want to use these AI customers for your workflow. So we have a quite flexible space to work with, and I'm not fully locked in into creating just an a B2B SaaS product. I'm also interested in like seeing how my current user reacts and give me feedbacks, and use Juno AI to give myself feedback, and finding that how Juno AI can be used in the future. So that's kind of Juno AI does.
No, I think that is really interesting. I think it is a very niche problem to tackle, which I feel uh, is undervalued in the industry. And I think having a tool like this could save time and could be used in multiple places. uh, and I think even I was just while you were talking, I was also thinking in terms of what if eventually when a like when a like we want they want to like a company wants to train their sales team, this could be like a practice customer that they can train on, right? And
Absolutely.
yeah, for marketing it could be like if this is an ad that would work for the customer. And then same for design, it could be testing the product. And for QA it could be like for sorry for engineers could be like give it the product and see how they perform. And I think this is really interesting to see. Like I see a lot of potential uh, opportunities for this product to grow in the future, and I think it has a really great future ahead of it. So yeah, kudos to it.
Thanks.
uh, so awesome. So let's go forward now. Will with the kind of working really in the fast-paced environment right now, as you're kind of building this, how do you kind of balance that shipping fast while kind of staying with your background of like backgrounds in design, like intentional with design, especially when kind of you're wearing multiple hats as a founder?
I think that's largely to do with two parts. One is method, another is approach. What I mean by method is that how do I move from design to building, and how do I like cut down time in that? And approach is about mindset, like how do I shift from being a designer to become a builder and founder. And so for the method part, I started finding out the key to shipping fast is to spend less time in Figma. And there are things I've shipped that are completely from my brain to become the web application that's interactable and it's built with code. Completely skipped Figma in that part. Um, and that made things really fast. Um, and so my approach, my method right now is usually if I'm working out on a like a newer kind of UI, I would sketch it out on paper and I take a photo of that, feed it to cursor, and describe it nicely about all the interactions and steps, and even design details, and tell it to build it. And with a few tweaks, I should be able to get it down. So being able to not using Figma anymore saves a lot of time because those pixels don't transition nicely to build products. Maybe not now. Like Cursor just launched a new thing, integration with the Figma MCP, so it does work right now better if you have existing digital designs in Figma. You could like help Cursor understand your design better, and that translation seems to be really good. But I think fundamentally, I think being able to just having that region in your mind and being able to describe it nicely and having it built is a really good rewarding experience and time saving kind of thing. And for the approach, I think it's kind of the thing I struggle with or without AI is that I need to tune down my perfectionist kind of thing, kind of inclinations. So I think a lot of designers would share this problem is like you want to be perfect in polishing out certain things. And I still do that today, but I think with AI it's faster if you want to like get go down a rabbit hole of making something really beautiful or pretty. But I think a lot of time I just need to remind myself like, is this worth it? Do you need to um, spend X amount of time on this, and how what's the reward of that? If that's it's worth it, or if it delights user, then yes, I'm gonna spend extra time on it despite making it slower to ship. But a lot of times, maybe it doesn't matter. Like nobody's going to notice it, or there are more burning questions or features to solve before focusing on this visual side of things. Or so I think with the intention of shipping fast, I need to focus a lot more holistically rather than just focusing on the design side of things to making sure I can ship on time and give new features so that I can I can learn from it and then dive in. So a lot of times, especially for newer products I'm building, it's like I'm not sure if this thing going to be useful at all. Why would I make it? Why would I make the UX super good if this thing might just throw it down the trash and not revisiting it at all at any time soon, right? So I guess like a lot of time just having to make those decisions and balancing on design versus shipping. Yeah.
I think it is really true, and I think considering you come from design, there are a lot of biases that you would have, and how you're trying to break them too. That is really interesting. I think one thing that I
Mhm.
really got is not spending a lot of time on Figma, directly jumping into kind of building stuff, which makes sense because a lot of times I think, especially when you wanna test the idea fast, it's
Yeah.
better to just get started. And also, I think this is a benefit from your side because you're a designer. You can imagine it in your head, and
Hmm.
you actually know what you want. But
Yeah.
as compared to, let's say, somebody who is not a designer, who may actually want to pen it down and then do it, because
Hmm.
he may miss just a bunch of things. But because you have been designing for so long, you have that in your mind that then you can do it much quicker.
Absolutely. I would say like I still love Figma and I still use it from day to day, and I think it's still super important to in any ways to develop a sense of how like being able to distinguish good design and bad design and being able to having sort of those kind of structural like it's like a building Lego, it's like a Lego set, so you need to have those foundational thinking and mindset in your brain to be able to dream out of um, like interfaces that don't exist yet at anywhere, right? It's in your brain, and I would say like it's still would be important for early stage designers to be able to hands on and making things and before like doing these kind of things, I would say, and or like looking at really good industry level designs and products and being able to experience them firsthand is also important. For example, I often just download apps that I don't personally have no need for. Like I'm not the target audience or customer of those kind of apps, but I think I want to review its design, its onboarding, its other things. So I just out of curiosity of learning, I download it and try to use it so I can learn something out of it. So that like accumulation of things, I think it's also what's forming me to be able to quickly imagine things out of my mind and speak it out to AI.
No, totally agreed. I think that definitely saves a lot of times doing like a back and forth in Figma and
Hmm.
then building something as compared to just going out there and build something. That is
Yeah.
really amazing. So let's go forward and kind of compare what you have done earlier and what you're doing now and how does that work. So what's one surprising thing that you learned while designing for like enterprise scale systems that you are kind of applying to your startup now?
I think part of it is onboarding, I would say. It's really easy to as someone working internally on something for so long to forget like how that tool might be too complicated or just impenetrable for anybody using it for the first time. And when I was working on enterprise scale tools, we spent a lot of times to do the onboarding and also like doing the support documents side of things to make sure that user who might not be tech savvy or not familiar with this side of this tool able to navigate throughout the tool and help themselves when they get lost. So that is something I think Juno AI needs a lot of effort to be put on right now is on those types of things because I rebuilt it, but to someone else that we talk to, some words we use or some interaction we use, um, might be unfamiliar or even strange to them. So being able to like test those out, know those things, and making a decision on like what help and what guidance you need to give the user inside of and outside of the application so that they can use it, and then it's kind of increase the retention rate of users as well. And so that, I think on from a UX standpoint as aspect, that's one of the surprising thing I learned designing enterprise scale systems and being able to use that in startup. Another side would probably be more like business related thing, is just like I said earlier, a lot of times UX are not that important. The important thing is having the product thinking, is that how do you bridge that business decision and goals? Because the end goal is to make sure your product can survive and can get enough revenue to keep you afloat, and right, and then those decisions need to leave how the product moves and it is designed for it. So I think like being able to find that balance is important, and that's something before designing for enterprise I didn't know that. Like before that, everything is just about user-centered design. So
No, I think that is really definitely interesting because I think what you just said at the end uh, is the truth. Like, no matter whatever anybody thinks, like business, like if you can't make money, it's very difficult to convince a business to hire you. And That's why I think UX especially is a field where you have to defend a lot what you are doing
mhm.
and convincing. So I think that is really interesting to see how you are taking your learnings from what you have done earlier to where you are now. So
Yeah.
let's go back towards how it actually all started for you. And actually, I wanna I want to talk more on the side project side. So you have built a lot of side projects from mini paper to draft, and now even Juno started like a leap yet you want to take. What's
Mhm.
your take on side projects as a way to learn, grow, or even eventually get hired?
I would say side projects are way more important today than a few years before, because today you can get really good results. You can advance your side project to a semi or even completely a serious thing, like a serious product. And I think for someone who either looking to having a business or looking to be hired, having something that's good, that's polished and market tested as a side project is only going to bring you um, offers, right? So I think especially for people who want to work in a startup environment, I think the manager of the startups or the CEOs of startup, they all want people who have ownership on side of things. Like you can move and you can start building something on your own without anybody else's direction, and being able to bring that value to the team is super important. So I think doing side project shows that eagerness to do something on your own, to have ownership, that shows like action. So just on that side of things, I think it's super valuable. Like without talking about um, skill learning and development, um, just having that is important. And I think on doing side project has been probably the most rewarding thing I've did starting out my career actually, because I just love having something that is completely built by myself and being able to see other people using it. That's one of the most rewarding thing, and it's kind of it's a kind of great feeling when you have that. It's a great feeling when you anything you design is being used by people, but especially when something is yours. Um, and on the skill development side of things is that because it's a side project, you have all the freedoms to choose what you want to build. For me, at the time, it was media paper, which is about customizing wallpapers to your liking. So the app allows people to use their favorite color, choose their favorite style to design and export a good looking, aesthetically pleasing, minimalistic wallpaper in a few seconds. So So I think because I was interested in wallpapers, I switched them out all the time. So I liked that aspect of things, and I couldn't find anything on the market. So I think it's that's where it triggered me. Is like I want to use this as a learning process. I don't even want to make money out of this. I just want to learn how to build it because there's none, and I want to use it, right? So I had all the freedom to choosing how I want to design an app to be look like, what uh, how long do I want to spend on it each day, and how essentially do I want to make it free, or do I want some extra income from it? Like all this decision I got to make was super good. Um, and I would say like if anybody considering doing an app, start with Swift UI. It's probably the best thing. At the time, I didn't use much AI when I started out, and um, you, choosing Swift UI was as the first kind of programming language that I really seriously learned is super rewarding because the language itself is very simplistic. It doesn't have all those disadvantages from other languages where like you have to spend a lot of times just to make it look standard. And Swift UI does that out of the box. So with that good basis, you get to customize things quite easily, and then the code is easy to understand. And I'll say Apple provides like Swift Playground as a kids app that's it's made for kids to understand coding, and for me it worked because it's designed easily enough. So I went through all that. um, just the end goal is just to learn itself. So I think when you do side project, maybe a good like suggestion is that think less of the outcome of the I guess the physical outcome of it, or be less pragmatic of it, more focus more on learning. Is like my end goal is just being able to know how to do this, even in a very superficial level. But at least I know this, right? It's like after these few months of building this, um, I became someone who knows UI from someone who doesn't know it at all. So that, I think, yeah, the goal for me was just to learn, and it paid out in the end because it opened up so many possibilities. I think if at the time my goal was to make some money out of it, I'd be pretty disappointed, to be honest, and I would probably have quit before before making it more and more interesting. Yeah.
No, I think it is amazing what you just put it out there, and I think I just want to summarize for the people kind of
Yeah.
listening. One thing, and I think I just want to summarize in a single line is that
Hmm.
whenever anybody is kind of taking on side projects, they should take it for the learning or the process, other like not the outcome or the product or money or anything else.
Hmm.
I think in that way they will learn the most, and they will kind of experience the process of building and ins and out. And even if it does not, it's because it's not tied up to outcome, they won't
Yeah.
feel sad, they will always feel happy about what they have learned, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super,
Mm,
super well put. Yeah. And I
yeah.
think like shout out to my parents here. I wish they would be able to see this, but it's when I grew up, like they put the most amount of investment into making sure I love to learn things, right? They're super open about like I was raised pretty well. Like if I wanted some kind of toy, they would try to make it. But if I want to learn something, they will be more than happy and a super encouragement to pay for those kind of learning. So I'm pretty privileged to say that, and I think for me, learning is probably the most important thing out than any other outcome. So like just being able to know it, like that's the end goal. I don't think this motivation of being able to know something in the end is the right motivation for everyone. So I think um, like I just want to mention like if your end goal is to make money, sure, make that the end goal. Like don't just stuck on kind of thinking, oh, I'm just gonna learn this thing that's good enough. If making money motivates you, then it's making money. Yep.
No, I totally agree, and also I think I want to put it out there that a person cannot if they are in a condition that they feel right now they are in a condition that they can experiment and learn, they
Hmm.
should do it. But if
Yeah,
they are not in that condition, they should not start a side project with that motive. If that's what they feel, I think
absolutely.
they need to realize where they are and what's important in their life and what is their motivation, and then go from there.
Yeah,
But one thing I do agree, I think even especially when we're experimenting and when we're young in life, and when we have or when we have like a backup plan already in place, and if we want to experiment, then it would make sense to kind of go from a learning route and understand some things, and then eventually
absolutely.
kind of find something that we actually want to make money or whatever that motivation may be, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
found it's also like treating learning as the outcome is kind of a good way to motivate and a good way to like help you stick to it because you don't get disappointed too often. You don't you're not pressured on time of delivery or things like that. So it's good. Yeah, it's good for mental health. Yeah.
Yep, totally agree. Okay,
Hmm.
so let me come to kind of the last question that I have for
Yeah.
you for the podcast. So you have been across different domains, and you have kind of have like a non-linear path. You started to learn different languages, you also did photography, and then you kind of went into a lot of different spaces, worked in a lot of different spaces of health tech, then Canada Post, and now you're starting something of your own, and you had a lot of side projects. What's one advice would you give to the designers navigating these non-linear paths?
I would say I kind of treated reviewing this kind of diverse and nonlinear paths almost like a board game. I think a good strategy for a board game is that you kind of take the best action you have at the time instead of trying to think too long and too far ahead. Right? Like the reason I had this nonlinear path, not necessarily because I um, like intentionally chose it. It's more because at the time I saw X opportunity is the best, and I took it, even though it's not linear. So my suggestion or advice is that don't be afraid to kind of pursue these opportunities. What if it sticks, right? What if you go into a totally unfamiliar field and it's not a good linear path um, that you previously imagined? But then when you're actually working on it, you kind of fall in love and you start to think, this is the thing I'm going to do for the rest of life, right? And it's good to have that kind of discovery. And but then I would say things change, like things change from year to year. So like being flexible and accepting that you are making the best decision at the time and trust yourself in making those decisions is super important because you wouldn't know what would happen otherwise. So yeah.
No, I think I totally agree with what you said. So kind of this makes us to the end of the podcast. So again, I really want to thank you again to kind of taking out the time for the podcast. And I think it is a power pack podcast, making people believe that they should take a leap of faith towards what they actually want to do. And there are different non-linear paths that as a designer you can take forward. So again, thanks a lot, Jeff, for kind of sharing all this advice, and thanks a lot for the audience listening out there.
Mhm. Thanks, Abhay. Thank you for the audience listening. It's super interesting and pleasant to share my experience here. And um, if anybody's interested in like, getting to know more anything I do, feel free to contact through Abhay. And yeah, let's go.
Yeah,
Good
yeah,
luck
for
to your
sure.
future episodes.
Yeah. I'll link down your socials in the description, so anybody who want to reach out, they can.
Awesome. Thank you.